So I'd like to welcome everybody to LR lesson number 15. Today will be a combined session talking about two concepts that I've already covered. The first is the importance of I don't know, and the second is the task of taking an inventory. And we'll be looking at one particular question that demonstrates both of these. So as I was talking about, I have already mentioned the fundamental importance of being able to identify uncertainty and accepting that state of uncertainty as correct. So I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't know for sure is often exactly what you're supposed to think after you read something, both in RC and LR, but especially in LR, and answer choices in particular. Just looking at something and saying, I don't know this for sure, that's actually correct. Never, ever be in a rush to pretend like you know something that you're not sure about. Again, identifying uncertainty and then accepting that state of uncertainty as correct, that's key to your performance here. The same question that demonstrates the above concepts of uncertainty, PT 125, section 2, question 25, is also a great example of how I don't know not only helps analyze choices, but also is quite literally why the correct answer is correct. This is also a good place to demonstrate the value of just taking an inventory, no special analytical skills necessary. Honestly, I feel like the I don't know is more up front and center in terms of what matters to this question, but I also felt that it was important just to demonstrate what the impact of just taking an inventory without really over-processing things, how helpful that can be. So let's get right into the question. The STEM is a pretty standard inference question. STEM, it says which of the following statements can be properly inferred, literally says inferred, from the statements above. So let's get into the stimulus. Statement number 1. To face danger solely because doing so affords one a certain pleasure does not constitute real courage. So yeah, that it is what it is. I don't really see that there's anything further to say about that statement. Facing danger solely because it's pleasing, not courage. Moving on to statement number 2, real courage consists of the following things, and we get kind of a chain here. Let me just list out everything that I see. So real courage, if you're looking at real courage, what that entails is that on your way to pursuing a goal, you've persevered over fear that has been prompted by danger along the way. So yeah, I see goal is an element, perseverance over an element, perseverance over what? A fear, and a fear generated by what? A danger. Yeah, so okay, I see 4 elements here. So if I'm going to translate this, I think as much as I wanted to resist doing this in formal logic just because I could see some formal logic going on in statement 1, I'm not really sure that formal logic doesn't matter very much, and I've seen it do more harm than good in this area of the exam, but I'm saying too much. Just translating statement 2 more briefly, if you're looking at real courage, if you have real courage, then you have goal, perseverance, fear, and danger along the way, signified by these 4 letters. So let me do some analysis here. To me, now that I look at the breakdown of statement 2, statement 1 ends up being a giant nothing burger. So this is my way of looking at it in formal logic. Statement 1 says, if your motivation for, facing a danger is purely because of that thrill-seeking pleasure, that's not real courage. So the contrapositive says that real courage consists of things that are not solely pleasure. But statement 2 just gives us a much better version of statement 1, right? Statement 2 says, if you have real courage, it consists of things other than just pleasure, right? In fact, it goes further and gives us a list of what those non-pleasure things are. So this is where I wanted to really highlight the value of taking inventory. Yes, there were some formal logic translation skills involved, but this wasn't particularly complex in terms of formal logic. Facing danger solely because it's pleasing is not courage. It's pretty easy to translate into solely pleasure, arrow, not courage. This isn't particularly hard on the formal logic front. But just kind of taking stock of what's there allowed me to see that statement 1 and statement 2 are really the same thing, and statement 2 is just better. Statement 2 just says what statement 1 says with greater specificity, while statement number 1 is just a worse version of statement number 2. It just kind of generalizes it without giving us anything real. So based on this, I'm thinking there's a high chance that statement number 1 has very little logical value to us at all. The only way I think statement 1 could matter is if they give us 4 clear garbage answers and the one remaining answer forces us somehow to look at statement 1 instead of statement 2, which would have elements of, that pleasure-seeking, thrill-seeking behavior that I was talking about. But I think it's much more likely that statement 2 is going to be what actually matters to us here. Like I said, I think it's just a better, more specific version of statement 1. Alright, let's go on to the answer choices here. So based on my statement number 2 analysis of real courage, if real courage, then you have goal, perseverance, fear, and danger. This is, I could have animated all of this separately, but it would have taken forever, not really worth the effort. This is basically what I have for assessing each answer choice based on the 4 criteria for what real courage is. So I'll just go line by line and explain why I have what I have here. So starting with A. A person who must face danger in order to avoid future pain cannot properly be called courageous for doing so. So I do see that there is an element of a goal, right? Avoiding future pain, I'll call that a goal. So green check mark in the goal column. There's no mention of perseverance. There's a mention of needing to face the danger, but we don't know that they persevered. And not only do we not know if they persevered, we don't even know if this person faces fear, right? Yeah, we only knows that they're facing danger. So the final column, the danger, gets a check mark. Okay, so there's danger and there's a goal, but there's no mention of fear or perseverance over that fear. So our verdict should be no. We don't really, it's not a no. We don't know whether or not it's courage. We need to have answers to the perseverance and fear questions in order to tell whether or not that's real courage. So the interesting thing is the answer says that that's for sure not courage. We don't know that. We don't know if it is or it isn't. We need to know what the status is of fear and whether or not this person persevered before we can make the verdict of not, this is not courage. So our action for A is to eliminate it. B, let's go through a similar thing. A person who experiences fear of some aspects of a dangerous situation cannot be said to act courageously in that situation. All right, so again, there's certainly, they mention a danger here, so we get a green check mark there. And this one, unlike A, does mention a fear. Okay, here though, we don't, what it's missing is we don't know that this person was on their way to some other goal. And very key, we don't really know if they persevered over the fear or not. The mere experience of fear wasn't part of the standard for what courage is. It's the perseverance over fear that brings it from not courage over to courage. So our verdict is, again, we don't know. There is no final determination on the issue of courage because we need to know whether or not this person has persevered over the fear, and we also need to know if they had a goal, ideally. And so because we don't know what goes into those columns, our verdict is no final determination of C. But again, answer choice B actually tells us that cannot be said to act courageously. So they're saying it's whatever it is, it's not courage. We don't know that. We do not know that it's not courage. So our verdict is different from the answer's verdict, so we're going to eliminate this one. Let's move on to the next line. C. A person who happens to derive pleasure from some dangerous activities is not a courageous person. So this one has more question marks than all the rest that we've seen so far. Certainly there is danger, but there is no mention of whether or not there is fear, perseverance, or goal involved. And so because it could go either way on any of those 3 issues, the goal, perseverance, or fear, again, our verdict is the same as A and B. We cannot make a final determination on whether or not this person is courageous. Because remember, this is tempting you, C is tempting you to look at statement number 1 and go back to that, thrill seekers are not really courageous thing. But remember, statement number 1 is very specific. To face danger solely because doing so affords a certain pleasure. C doesn't establish that it was solely pleasure. We just know that pleasure was involved. We don't know if that was the only thing involved. So again, our verdict is we just don't know what's going on. Maybe it's courage, maybe it isn't. We don't have enough data. And again, answer choice C pretends like this is not courage, and we can't say that for sure. So C is also gone. Let's move on to D. A person who faces danger in order to benefit others, okay, so far so good, is acting courageously only if the person is afraid of the danger. All right, so here we have a bunch of green check marks. We clearly, there's a danger here. There is an element of fear. We're not sure on the perseverance, but we do have a goal involved. So this one is almost perfect. This one has almost all the check marks. That being said, we do need to know, in order to say something is courageous or not, we do need to know if that person managed to persevere in the face of that fear. And so our verdict is, in this situation, we don't actually know if there is a final determination of courage or not. Again, we're missing that perseverance element. Interestingly though, this is the first time that we have an answer that lines up with our no final determination. So if you read D carefully, D is a condition, right? D is saying that somebody who faces danger in order to benefit others is acting courageously only if the person is afraid of the danger, only if they actually experience fear from that danger, right? They're not saying that for sure this person is going to be courageous. They're just highlighting that fear is a necessary component, a necessary condition for true courage. So again, the way D is written, it is only highlighting the importance of the fear element as a necessary condition for courage, which is accurate. They're not actually making a judgment on whether or not somebody is, in this case, being courageous or not being courageous. They're not making that determination. Again, all they are doing is specifying a necessary condition for courage. That's it. That's all that they're doing. And because of that, D doesn't actually tell us whether or not this is courage. That lines up. So honestly, that it's consistent with what I see. I'm saying we should probably select this here. Let's just check E now that we're here, though. A person who has no fear of the situations that everyone else would fear cannot be said to be courageous in any situation. This one is pretty bad. It's a lot like C. Question marks all around. We don't really know if there's any danger involved. We know that there's some fear, but there's problems with the way they describe the fear, and there's also no mention of perseverance or whether there's a goal that they're trying to persevere for. Even without looking at this chart, if you just look at what E says, E isn't talking about fear generically. They limit the fears to fears that everyone else has. I mean, what if you don't have fears that normal people have, but you're just irrationally afraid of, like, the color purple or something like that, right? The only standard that we have for what is and what is not courage is, did you have a fear? You don't need to share that fear with anybody else. So it doesn't matter that your fears don't line up with people. Courage has to do with whether you had on the way to a goal, you faced danger that generated fear, and yet you persevered in that face of that fear. Doesn't matter what that fear actually is. So again, our verdict based on this situation is that too many question marks. We don't know if this person actually demonstrates courage or not. We don't know that they persevered. We don't know that there was a danger. We don't know that there was a goal. We just don't know either way, so there's no determination that we can make about whether or not either way they had courage. But of course, answer choice E again repeats the error of answers like B and C, where they're declaring that this person cannot be courageous. They're taking them out of the courageous pool, and we don't know that. They could be courageous. We just need to hear whether or not they had danger and whatnot. So yeah, that's what makes E just as wrong as A, B, and C. Whereas what makes D correct is that they shrug their shoulders just like we do. Our determination throughout all of these was, we don't know. We don't know the situation that you're describing, whether or not that is courage. And D, very interestingly, in a sort of passive-aggressive way, is doing the same thing. They are very uninterested in declaring a determination of courage or not. So here are the takeaways. Accept again that uncertainty is more or less the norm. You saw on the previous page, uncertainty was just all over the page. Question marks in all those columns, and in our takeaway or in our verdict column on the previous page, it was just all we don't know. It was all we don't know. It's all over the place. Even if there isn't outright uncertainty, there's almost always the potential of it. So again, just try not to assume that you have certainty on anything. Once you've detected uncertainty, be suspicious of any pretense of certainty. That was really what should have got you to eliminate all four of the incorrect responses on the previous slide. Our thing was, we just, based on the situation that is suggested, we don't know. We don't know, but the answer pretended like it knew, and that's what So yeah, thanks for making it to the end. As usual, leave a comment or email me at the email address on the screen if you have any further questions. But yeah, let me know what you thought and if you have any further questions, and I'll see you guys in the next one.